What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some r/relationships. If you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it all massively helps out our channel. And let's just dive straight in to today's stories. Much love, guys. And our first story comes from Psycho Rax the Lost. My 29 female uncle, 60s male, is telling everyone I'm lying about getting my bachelor's degree because I refused his offer to buy my cap and gown. How do I set boundaries with them about this? Okay, so here's the story. I've been in a very tenuous, sporadic contact with my extended family since I was 18. This is primarily due to the fact that I often didn't have a phone during this time, for reasons we will discuss later, but also due to the fact that my relationship with them has been strained for most of my life now. My mother is a schizophrenic and has likely displayed symptoms since before I was born, though she wasn't diagnosed until I was about 15. She was misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD. As a result, my mother made a lot of, shall we say, questionable life choices. She never did anything illegal and never directly abused me, but she got into some shady romantic relationships, made some bad decisions with regards to her work life, ended up in a lot of debt, and just generally made a mess of her life and the lives of everyone around her. My extended relatives aren't on speaking terms with my mother, and while they do seem to care about me in some small way, they also project many of their issues with her onto me and have treated me sort of badly because of it. I've learned that cordial distance is the best way to deal with them. Unfortunately, my mother decided she didn't want to burden me with her care, and so she impulsively eloped with someone she'd been dating for all of 2 months. And please note, this is not the first time she's done this. He turned out to be an ex-convict with a drug problem. I called social services, but they were no help. As a result, I ended up homeless and broke when I was 20. I had a job. I was staying in the dorms that semester to facilitate some late night labs, and I was able to sell some things and plasma in order to get a security deposit together. But my university wouldn't allow me to move out of the dorms and into an off-campus apartment because I was technically a sophomore, as I transferred from a community college and lost about a semester and a half's worth of courses. I petitioned the university to allow an exception due to extenuating circumstances. They asked me to provide evidence of an irreconcilable break with my extended family. When I asked my relatives to let me stay with them, I did it hoping that they would say no. I didn't tell them what was going on or any of that because A, they wouldn't care, and B, the refusals needed to seem genuine, which they were. True to form, they all refused to let me stay with them. I turned in the Facebook messages to my university, and as a result, I was able to move into an empty bedroom for the last semester, then into a 1-bedroom apartment in the same complex the following academic year, which is where I've been for the past 7 years. I never told my relatives the real reason I was asking them for help, or the fact that I made my plans with a full expectation that they would refuse. When I was 22, I ended up going through some health problems and wasn't able to pay my phone bill, and so I ghosted them for another 5 years. Unfortunately, once you lose contact information, it can be really hard to find it again, particularly if your relatives don't have social media presence. During those next 5 years, a lot of things happened. I had multiple life-threatening health problems come up, got hit by a car, had a baby that I then put up for adoption, and had to press charges against a stalker, among other things. I went through most of this with no support and was eventually forced to leave school for a few years in order to get my life together. I finally graduated with a bachelor's degree in 2018, after about 8 years of struggle. While I was finishing up my last semester of school, I found my uncle's contact information and got in touch with him to let him know I was alive. I told him the Cliff Notes version of my life over the past half a decade, and then told him that I was graduating from university. He was ecstatic and asked me when the graduation was. I told him I wasn't going because I couldn't afford to drop $500 on a cap and gown, at which point he offered to pay it for himself. I eventually told him that I didn't want this, as I mostly just wanted to celebrate my graduation by myself. I get really nervous around crowds. I also had to work, as I already had a job as a technical writer and couldn't afford to take the time off, as I'd been working as an intern at the same place for a few months before I graduated and gotten promoted to a full-time position that same week. He didn't seem that upset about it at the time, but come to find out, he's been telling all other relatives that I'm lying about graduating because I didn't attend graduation with my classmates, who weren't the same classmates I started with and who I barely knew. I'm bewildered and hurt because this behaviour one would expect from my mother, not me. Where do I even begin with dealing with him? How do I set boundaries with my family and move forward with our relationships? Is this a situation where I should cut ties and be glad for it? Or can this be saved? Edit, because people are asking. The health problems were caused by Crohn's disease. When I say life-threatening, I mean random bouts of horrible, unexplained losses of bodily fluids that went on for up to a week at a time. I can admit the other stuff, the shitty relationships, getting hit by a car, the pregnancy, could have been prevented with planning. But I didn't give myself Crohn's disease. I inherited it from my mother, who according to my relatives was just lying about her random bouts of abdominal distress for attention. I omitted the exact nature of my illness out of consideration for the people in this sub who didn't want to hear about my intestinal disorder. And also out of consideration for myself, since I find my Crohn's symptoms deeply humiliating. Now, firstly, never be embarrassed if you've got Crohn's or any disease, in fact. And it's one of these things that we need to bring to the forefront so we can talk about it a lot more. I mean, I know someone personally that's got Crohn's and they've been through a hell of a lot, you know. Many of the symptoms that OP is pointing to in this and a lot more, and they've been through operations and where they've had to have some of their intestines taken out and they've got further operations to go as well. So yeah, it can be a devastating disease. And in this particular story, it's one of these ones where I don't think I can truly tell you whether you should be cutting ties with your family or not, because it's a very, very personal thing, isn't it? You asked in the situation, should I cut ties or can this be saved? The question is, do you really want to save it? Do you want the support of these people? Are they someone that you want to keep in your life? That is the question here. From what I've read here, I don't know if I personally want them in my life because they haven't supported you up to this moment. And, you know, the uncle is being a complete arse in this one to me. My petty self would probably show them proof of it. Not that you should need to, but I'd probably show them proof of your bachelor's degree just for your own benefit to get one over. But that, as I said, that's petty me talking here. But Goat is my co-pilot says, you are to be commended for overcoming so many obstacles just to survive. Honestly, who cares about your uncle and extended family who did nothing to help you? And Kitten Lost says, just lose their phone number again. Why waste time on someone that doesn't respect you? Doesn't matter if they're family. Those that love and support you know the truth. And this cat came back said, you are tremendously strong. You had no solid foundation to start on, no support, had to dodge endless amounts of shit and still succeeded in finishing your degree and getting a good job as a technical writer. You are a fucking badass, no matter what your arsehole family thinks. Frankly, it pisses me off that they didn't help you when they knew you had a bad start in life. I think they are jealous that you finished your degree despite all the odds. Your mum was likely the scapegoat in this family dynamic, where everyone looked down on her and blamed her, and they are trying to put you in that same role. Don't let them. If you want to prove yourself, send them all a picture of your degree and a letter to say how disappointed and hurt you are by their behaviour towards you over the years. You have done nothing to deserve this. Otherwise, just cut them out and go on trying to go have a happy life yourself without people trying to put you down. This is all under the assumption that you know for sure your uncle made these claims and is not coming from someone who is trying to start problems between you and your uncle. Also, make sure your LinkedIn is public. Do that when they stalk you online to see what you are doing. They can see how well your career is going, despite them. Cartoonist62 says, honestly, this is gossip from 3 years ago. You either tell him honestly and calmly that you heard he was suspicious about your degree and send him a picture, or you just ignore this, especially since you heard it through the grapevine. Is there anything else he's done that requires a boundary in the last 3 years? It's hard to put a boundary 3 years later, but if he actively gossips and lies, then an information diet is best. You've lived a tough life and you've come out on top. Don't sweat the gossip of family you aren't even close with. Living a good life is the best revenge. Too true at the end there. We have one more comment from a doe child who says, do you want to talk to people who are of no help? It sounds like you're best off as Facebook friends. You seem to be doing pretty well despite all you went through. This is not someone you need to impress. He isn't a networking point for your job. and your work is the only place you have to show evidence of your hard work. If he doesn't believe you, that's a him problem. He was fine leaving you homeless and whatnot because of how he thinks of his sister. It kind of sounds like it was going to end with gossip anyway. Had you taken the money, you would have been a mooch who comes back and asks for money immediately. Sometimes you have to find your own family. These people just share blood and don't really seem interested in taking you back. It's easier to gossip badly about you, so focus on you. Follow them from afar and make the greatest of your own life with the people who aren't such jerks. Now, what is your thoughts on this story? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below and any suggestions for what OP could be doing. Let me know and we'll move on to another story. And our next story is from DesW77. My female 21 fiance's male 23 best man just told my fiance he hates me. So long story short, my fiance's best man, we'll call him Liam, recently told my fiance that he hates me. Liam hasn't said much about why he doesn't like me other than the fact that I'm supposedly holding a grudge over him. Treat him like shit and don't talk to him. For me personally, I have loved this guy. I thought he was a great best friend to my fiance. We've all been on trips together, he was super excited for us to get married and even posted social media and privately expressed to us how proud he was to be a part of our wedding when my fiance asked him to be his best man. It honestly came as a shock to me and my fiance to find out that Liam can't stand me. It was very out of the blue. Liam told my fiance he would still come to the wedding if that's what my fiance wanted, but made it very clear he would only be there for him and not us. There has been no incidents that I'm aware of that could cause this to happen. I'm honestly torn up and I've been feeling at an all-time low. It sucks to find out that someone I love and care about had secretly hated me. Oh, and not to mention, our wedding is a month out. What do I do? I know for sure I want him there because no matter what, I still have love for the guy, but I don't want to make Liam feel awkward and be a part of something he supposedly doesn't care about. OP does come up with an edit that answers some questions from the comments. So we'll cover some of the questions straight away and then we'll move on to the update because basically I'm in that situation. It's like, what is Liam? What's wrong with Liam? There must be something that happened. Is there something missing here? But Overwhelmer said, kind of a different take. They say not to air your dirty laundry. Is Liam the person your fiance goes to when things are tough between you? After a fight or argument? It's easy for us to vent, even about minor things, to our best friends, and it sounds like Liam could be this person for your fiance. If this is the case, Liam could have a skewed perception of you based on fiance's comments. Your first move should be talking to your fiance to get his take on why Liam could possibly feel the way he does. The problem could be there. Regardless, also go straight to the source and chat with Liam. Old Clam replied to that comment saying this is probably it. Also combined with Liam not liking her taking up all his friends' time. Liam mourning their changes in life status, worrying about how things will change when they have kids, etc. He probably hears only bad things, especially since they are so young and don't know how to make proper boundaries with friends. Speaking of boundaries, Liam should not be in the wedding party. The fiance needs to stand by OP, and having someone who hates her and disagrees with the wedding in the party is a huge slap in the face. The Bad Juju replies to that comment saying, to me this sounds like you should go to your husband to be and ask him if he was shit talking you to your shared friend. While that may not be how the inquiry is supposed to be perceived, I feel like that's the gist of the question. Why not go directly to the source and get the exact reason rather than make assumptions and possibly find out through roundabout methods? And if the groom has been bad-mouthing OP to best friend, she'll find out through what the friend says. Though if that's the case, it should be taken with a grain of salt. Nothing is perfect and it's understandable that groom vents and can do so without being on the level of talking crap. Math Throwaway says, and what does your fiance think about all of this? And we'll have one more before we move on to the update from Bipolar Butterfly. He says, is your fiance the first of his friend group to get married? This happens a lot when the guy and his friend are freshly out of college. Liam probably just freaking out that you guys are really growing into adults and the fun and freedom of college is now gone. You guys are getting more adult jobs, dating starts becoming more serious, and a lot of couples start trying for kids after marriage. If Liam hasn't had great luck in relationships, academic achievement, or is having a hard time job-wise, this would make total sense. He's insecure, immature, and scared. This is the time of your life where those school friendships just fizzle out, and he's lashing out because to him, none of this would be happening if he wasn't marrying you. Or he's just a douchebag. Either way, the best thing to do would be to sit him down with your fiancé and tell him your feelings, that you value him as a friend, and him saying these things really hurts. So we'll follow up with an edit which says, I'm getting a lot of 1. How does my fiancé feel? 2. I'm withholding information. 3. That this is similar. Love Actually. Never seen the movie. We'll definitely be checking it out now. 4. We're too young and this is high school drama. 5. Lack of info about Liam's status in personal relationship and where my fiancé stands in the friend group. My fiancé is crushed. He feels that if Liam was able to secretly hide this, what else could he be lying about? Or if he really believes Liam when he said this stuff. He is crushed for me as well because he knows how close me and best man were. The information I was given about this convo was very reliable. This conversation happened via text between the two of them, and I've read the whole conversation. I know texting can be very misleading. It's just having trouble knowing that he was saying such and such about me, and we have no idea why. Yes, we are young. I know this, and so does my fiancé. We've been together since I was 16, almost 17, and have never questioned one another when it came to our feelings for one another. We had the support of each other's families and friends through this whole relationship, including Liam, which is why this was a shock. Regarding this being a drama situation due to us being young, this has been the first hiccup, a shocking one, which is why we didn't know how to handle it. This happened 2 days ago, and my fiancé messaged him yesterday about meeting up and talking in person, and he got no response. My fiancé took it as maybe Liam needed time, or that Liam might have realised what he said was out of the blue and doesn't know what to say now. Liam is single and had been for a long time. No actual serious relationships. My fiancé is the first one in the friend group to be getting married, so I found the advice about that may be an issue to be very helpful. To wrap it up, I have not yet contacted Liam because he won't even reach back out to my fiancé. I feel hurt and I feel awful for my fiancé. I agree something does seem fishy and I'm wondering what it could be. So wanting to have answers is definitely heavy on my mind. Thank you to everyone who have reached out so far and given their advice. We both very much appreciate it. And going back on the previous comments, it's always very strange, isn't it? You know, once we leave school, we suddenly separate from our friends and lose contact. Not all the time, obviously, but I remember losing contact with my best friends from school, like pretty much the day after. We rarely saw each other again, which is incredibly sad, isn't it, really? We do see each other on Facebook, and we see that we've both moved on in life and doing different things and all that kind of stuff, but we just don't talk anymore. And it's very, very strange for seeing as that someone had like a solid 4 or 5 year friendship relationship with, and then it just ends like that. Crazy stuff. But what do you guys make of today's stories? As always, I would love to know your opinions, your thoughts, and your verdicts if you choose to share them, even though we're not on Am I the Arsehole? Come on, Mark. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending some time with me today, spending 20 minutes or so of your ever so precious time. It means the absolute world. So thank you so much for being absolutely awesome, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.
I got food up in the fridge. Y'all keep looking for that new wave. I think I like it how it is.